doing one more live interview today, and today I'm delighted to invite an American mezzo-soprano, Michelle DeYoung, whom I have seen in several performances in London, and she is an extraordinary singer who has received 3 Grammys and have sung in many, many operas and concerts. Now I'm waiting for her to connect here. Yes. Michelle,
hello.
Greetings from St. Petersburg.
It's so nice to talk to you.
Yes, it's good that technology now can do it to us in these times. And I will switch the comments so that your face is better seen on.
Oh, my phone. My head is almost too big to go into my phone.
Well, that's excellent, and that's why I switched off the comments so they don't block your face.
Okay.
So if we could maybe cover your career in 1 hour, and in the end I will ask about what you're doing in the quarantine times.
Okay.
So I guess my first question would be, do you have any idea whom you could have become if not a singer? Were there any options?
Well, the interesting thing is that, I grew up in a very small town in Colorado, and never occurred to me to be a singer. So my thought really was that I would get married and have a lot of kids and dogs. And that did not happen. But when I went to college, I was always very good at playing instruments, playing the piano, singing. I always had this huge range. So, in choirs, I could do any part they wanted me to sing. And I loved it. I always loved it. But it never occurred to me to do that for a living. So I went to a private college in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the choir director had me do a solo. And he said to me, "Have you ever considered doing a career in singing?" And I was like, "No." Huh. And so I decided, I had a big talk with my parents and said, "Why don't I try this? And I'll just put everything towards it. And when I'm 25, if I don't have any encouragement or anything like that, I'll do something different, because 25 is, well, any age is young enough to change things, but it's still young enough to do something else." So that's what I did. And I went to a university in California, and I basically took everything I thought had to do with classical music or opera career. And while I was going there, my voice teacher said, "I want you to get ready for the Metropolitan Opera competition, and I want you to be prepared because you're going to win. And they're going to ask you to be a young artist." And I laughed because I'd never done a competition before. And I said, "Kurt," his name was Kurt Allen. I adored him. He's unfortunately passed away. But I was like, "Kurt, I know you love me, but I mean, it's just not going to happen." But it did. It's exactly what happened. I did the Met competition in LA, and I won in LA, and I won the Western region, and I won in New York, and they asked me to be a young artist. And so I left college and I moved to New York, and I did the 3-year young artist program at the Metropolitan Opera. And then fortunately, got agents in my 3rd year and have been working ever since singing. So it's been amazing.
Your voice is your instrument. Is there a special relationship you have with your voice? Like, when you are not fully in your voice, or you feel, that's it, I have reached my full capacity. Like, is the voice is a certain entity that is beyond you, and you have to connect with it through exercises, through inspiration? How do you live with your voice?
Well, especially being a classical / opera singer, because, typically we do not use microphones, and our body is our instrument. We use our entire body. So it's very important to be fit, to eat well, and to be physically fit. And because it's a workout, if you're doing a 5 or 6 hour long opera, it's exhausting. I will afterwards, your legs, or my legs and my arms, actually hurt just from all the energy I'm giving it. But I also love that about it. So you really have to take care of your whole body in order to be a good singer.
And would you recognize any famous singer in the world by closing your eyes. What I'm asking, is there a uniqueness to each big voice we have in the world?
Yes, I do believe so. I think there's sometimes you can hear people that have similar timbres, but timbres are very unique. So like you could take, for instance, Kirsten Flagstad and Birgit Nilsson, who sang almost exactly the same repertoire, and they are so different. So yes, I think that if I know the voice, I could definitely tell you who it was.
And the same thing for you, yes? People would know it was you, even just not being told so, yeah?
Yeah, I think if people know my voice, they know I have a very unique sound, because in some ways I have a very youthful sound, but in some, I mean, I also sing, you know, I have an enormous voice, and so I sing the dramatic reps. So it's a sort of a mixture. I definitely think, I don't think I sound like anybody else.
Well, I'm sure that you don't. I just asked it maybe to think about it. And you mentioned the range of your voice. Who advises you to choose the roles to form your repertoire, knowing how big it is? Maybe there is a danger to lose yourself, yes, in all possible roles, or knowing who you are, you actually only choose the specific ones that would highlight its strength better. How do you limit your repertoire, or on the contrary, broaden it?
I think it's very important for all singers, but especially a shout out to young singers, that you have somebody that you really trust. I mean, really trust. And I don't just mean trust because you love them and they love you. I don't mean that. I mean that, and the fact that they know. So I was fortunate enough to study with Trish McCaffrey when I was a young artist at the Met. And she is still somebody to this day that I trust very much, and she knows my voice. And but also what I think is imperative is that we know our voice, and that we know, you know, I when I'm teaching, I'll say to someone, if it's strainful, it's wrong. It should not be. You should be exhausted down here, but here should be not strained. So you can tell if you're singing something, and you know, I can look at something and go, well, I can sing all those pitches, I sing a high C, but it's a different thing to stay up there. You know, that tessitura is a much different thing than range. So there are things that I can sing that maybe has become a different way fashionable to have sung, like dramatic mezzo roles, Verdi roles. They are often really full chested in the low, and I don't sing that way because I find that affects my high notes. So but I can sing the roles, but it's just a different taste. So there are, or Ariadne. Ariadne is actually a role that suits me really, really well, but it's become fashionable in Europe to have not dramatic voices sing Ariadne. Where when I was growing up at the Met, Jesse Norman sang Ariadne, you know, and Violetta Ormana sang Ariadne. And so it was, I am used to a more dramatic voice in the role, and I like that. But that's, you know, that's my taste. Of course, that's my voice.
What are the most demanding opera roles? I understand it is probably Judith, yes, in Bluebeard Castle.
Well,
or
it would depend on who you ask. Judith is very difficult to sing, but I love it. I've of course sung it many, many times, but one thing I love about it, it's incredibly complicated, it's incredibly difficult, but it's within reach. So you can always get better at it. And I like that. For me, singing Carabino would be very difficult. Or singing Cenerentola. I mean, it probably, you know, my larynx would probably be on the ceiling. That would be, for me, that would be very difficult. For Joyce DiDonato, that's, you know, what she does when she wakes up. For me, singing Wagner is not difficult. I mean, it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. I don't mean to say that, but that's my voice. I can sing that. That is who I am. I don't have to change my voice in order to do it. So there are things that you just like. I sing Kundry a lot in Parsifal. That is a very, very difficult role. The second act is like just to the edge of unsingable, but I like that. I like the challenge of it, and I find that I get better and better at it every time I sing it. So you have to figure out how to do it, but within reason.
How do you prepare for a long run with the Wagnerian role? I imagine it takes at least a month to rehearse, and then a month to run it, like say at Bayreuth. Yes. So the whole run, how does it happen? Do you prepare, say, for several months at home individually, and then, like, could you describe to us the whole process, the end result of which would be you standing and receiving applause at the Bayreuth Festival?
We can only hope, right? So I did sing Kundry at Bayreuth, and in preparation for it, I had never done it. And Pierre Boulez was the conductor, and he was dead set on me doing it. And I was like, I've never sung the role, Pierre. But he was insistent about me doing it. I miss him very much. But anyway, and to help prepare for it, he scheduled concerts throughout the year before it of second act, which is for Kundry, the big act. So we did it in Carnegie Hall, we did it in Berlin, we did it all over. Sorry, not Berlin, Paris. We did it all over, and that really helped. And then, so that helped me get ready to sing it. But then the rehearsal process, especially in Bayreuth, is much longer than anywhere else. I think that we rehearsed stage maybe 2.5 to 3 months before you even open. And then you're there for another at least month for shows, maybe 1.5, 2 months. So the whole thing is 4 months long. It's easy 4 months in Bayreuth. And it was a new production, which it usually is. And they, I shouldn't say it usually is, they often use the same production. This one was a new production, my first year there. And it was a very complicated production and a very controversial production. So there was a lot that went around it that was very negative, which was sad, but it was still Bayreuth. I still sang Kundry at Bayreuth, and that I'm very proud of that. And it was really an extraordinary experience. So, but the whole process, like for instance, I'm singing a concert, hopefully in the fall, of second act Tristan, and I'm singing Isolde. And the only thing I've done with Isolde is I've sung and recorded the Liebestod, and I've done the third act. Other than that, I always sing Brangäna. And so this will be my first real step into Isolde. And I have been working on it for at least 6 months. And now that everything this summer has been canceled, I will be working on it more, in hopes that it is not canceled.
How do you know? Yeah,
that role is just huge. That role, like Isolde, just takes a long time to get it ready.
But how do you know when you are prepared? Who gives that final click? Like, you're prepared to sing in the concert?
You don't have that as a professional. You just prepare and prepare. I remember one time, Kevin Murphy, who's my he's usually my accompanist, and a very good friend. He said, Michelle, you're more prepared than anybody. But I don't feel that way. I feel like it always could be more prepared. So I do as much as possible, and then you just have to go and do it. That is live singing.
Do you distinguish conductors by whether they are good in showing you, I don't know, giving you the cues? Like, is there an hierarchy in your head who is better than others? Like, not mentioning names, but what are the good qualities of a conductor in the opera that you appreciate and that you like people to have? Like,
well, ironically, I think it's your right shoulder, you have a picture of Esa-Pekka.
Yeah.
Ironically, so I've been fortunate enough to work with him a lot, and he's one of my favorite conductors to work with. But not only do I love making music with him, and it's not about the cues. It's making music. It's just, what he gives a singer, and the end product is so rewarding as a musician. But I have also done things with him that need cues that are very, very tricky, and he's extraordinary and calm. He's just like, he's just so calm about his cue giving. So he is a mixture of both. He makes, if you are ever off, he never loses his cool, ever. I have never seen him lose his cool on stage. And he'll just point to you and bring you in. He's very, very calm. So which gives you such a sense of calm on stage. So I would say, as far as cues go, and I mean, in many cases, he's definitely the greatest.
Mm-hmm. So basically, the conductor is the one who helps you not to lose the rhythm and knows where things have gone wrong and puts everybody back on track. If
that happens,
somebody,
hopefully that doesn't happen, but if that happens, that is definitely his job. But it's also, or his or her, excuse me, it's also the conductor's job to, it's their vision sort of how it's going to be. You can have discussions of how it is, but when you get to it, it's them that really, because you can't have every soloist, for instance, decide how they want it, because else you'll never have it. Sometimes people like to sing fast, sometimes they like it slower. You'll never have that come together if you don't have a conductor.
And do you have to go deep into the Wagnerian mythological world to know everything that he worked on, all this God's relationships, all the philosophy, Nietzsche and Schopenhauer? How deep does the singer have to go into all this?
There's so many parts to being a singer that are individual and unique. I like that. I like to do that kind of research, even if it's not going to be anything to do with the production. I like the background of the character, and of the story. I like to know where the composer was, what the composer was thinking when he wrote it, he or she. And so I find that really interesting. I know many people that don't do that. And it doesn't change their performance. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. I can't answer that because I haven't seen the other thing. But I think you're definitely able to do it without that research. That's kind of what's fun about being a singer. No, there's so much fun about being a singer. But one thing that's neat is there's never a time where you go, okay, now I know. You just never do. There's always more to know. So I think that is one thing that's wonderful about it. You never get bored. There's always more to learn. Even like you said, you were talking about Bluebeard's Castle, which I have sung many, many times. I have no idea. My agent knows how many times. I have no idea how many times I've sung it. And throughout my career, and every time I learn more. Every time I work a little bit harder on the Hungarian, I go back through it. My good friend Gabo Bretz is a famous Hungarian bass baritone, and he will help me a little bit here and there if I sing it with him, and or the story. I'll think more about the story. Is it psychological? Is it realistic? Just different things like that. I like that about the constant research in music.
And the languages, are you now a polyglot in terms of still remembering all the languages that you ever worked in the opera?
I can go back and sing things that I have sung in the languages. I do not speak Hungarian. I do not speak Czech. I do not speak Russian. Unfortunately, I wish I spoke all of them, but I don't speak any of them.
So it means that the knowledge of the aria doesn't transfer to knowledge of the language, right?
It does through study, but I couldn't turn around and have a conversation in the language. So I know what I'm saying, and I know how to pronounce it, and I know both poetically and realistically what the translation is, but only of what I'm singing and what the other person is singing.
How sensitive are you to the different halls that you are entering? I remember there were pictures you singing in the open hall in Athens or in Spain and Granada. I remember this.
That was incredible.
In 2018, right? I think that was. And then you know everything, the match, you name it, because I haven't even been in this hall that you have sung in, and I wonder whether when you enter, you have to accommodate yourself, your voice. This is this hall, and I have been in it, say, 100 times, and this is my first one here. So how sensitive are you to the actual stage, or you create sort of a bubble and you forget about the bigger hall that you're in?
Well, that for a singer, that happens, that depends a lot on technique. So the way that I sing, if I feel funny in an acoustic, it's because I'm not warmed up. Now, that being said, so that means I can pretty much sing anywhere the same way. That being said, there are halls that are so fulfilling, like Carnegie Hall. I mean, it is just, for me, it's a singer's dream to sing in Carnegie Hall. You get it back. You feel like it's just filling the whole house. It's so wonderful. The tour you were talking about with us, that was with Esapeka, actually.
Yes, yeah.
And I was singing my first immolation scene from Götterdämmerung. All three of those places that I sang were outdoor, and the way that they are built, you use no mic, which was extraordinary. It was such an amazing experience because yes, it was open sky, but because of the way the seats were, like in Greece, they're these a typical old arena in Greece.
Amphitheater, yeah.
Yeah, amphitheater. It was all
Yeah.
in, the stones were right there, and so your voice just fills it. Very interesting.
I'm sure that was amazing. Yeah, what was I going to say? Yes, I actually wanted to ask about the symphonic performances. So actually, I've seen you only in them. I've seen you in Mahler 3 with the Philharmonia in Gura Lieder in June also, I remember. And so I wonder, for Mahler 3, you have sung it with so many conductors, and you have recorded it. Why do you feel Mahler had to put this vocal part into it? It's kind of has this special small role. It kind of suddenly enters there. So I wonder, how do you perceive it in the structure? Well, why are you there?
Mahler definitely was very touched by the human voice, and like the lower voice especially, I think. But he was such an emotional composer, and I believe that he felt the need for that because Mahler 2, his second symphony, his third symphony, his fourth symphony, his eighth symphony, Das Lied von der Erde, they all have voice in it. I believe that I think he felt, you know, a lot of people have the emotional connection to the human voice, and I believe that he did. And I think that's why he put it in. Of course, it's only a movement here or movement there in all of those. Well, not the eighth, but in the second, third, and fourth, it's just a little bit here and there. And my poodle wants to come up and say hi.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's gonna be a small bonus for the viewers.
He's like, oh, she's talking to someone. Who's she? Active. Say hello. So I think that I believe that's why, and I feel very blessed that I've sung it so many. I've recorded it 4 times, 4 or 5, I can't remember, but it's really quite an amazing thing to sing, and strangely, because it's well, Mahler 2 is actually more difficult. The entrance of Mahler 2 is terrifying, but it's so exposed, both of them, and it's so short, you know, and you have so much to do in that little amount of time.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit of a challenge. But I cannot tell you what it's like to be on the stage during the symphony when you're not sick.
Afterwards, yes.
Because I love symphonic work. That is, you know, to go to the symphony every night, I would be fine with that. And so to sit there amongst a Mahler orchestra and hear that and feel it in the floor, it's extraordinary.
And the Gura Lieder, why it is considered a difficult work to perform? Is it because there are too many musicians on stage?
There
Or?
are a lot. It's a big orchestra. His orchestras are always quite, or not always, but the Gurra leader is a very big orchestra. It's also very hard to cast. It's very hard to sing for sort of for all the parts, but well, not all the parts, but the main parts. But that, oh, I am in love with that piece. Whenever it comes up, I'm so excited about singing it because for the mezzo, it's just a dream part. You know, you go on and you just sing phenomenal music for like, what is it, 12 minutes or 15 minutes, and then you're done. But it is some of the most beautiful, I'm hearing it in my head, some of the most beautiful music. So it's really wonderful, but it's very hard for the tenor.
I will ask you the question that we are not going to experience maybe for some time soon, but how do you feel your audiences? You have probably seen the audiences of all the world, yes, in Asia, in America, in Europe, maybe not in Russia yet.
Yes, I've been in Tchaikovsky Hall.
Well, so are they
but just
different?
Not St. Petersburg.
Yes, are they different? And how do you, like, other instances that you actually interact with them, that you look at the front row, or you are angry with someone, you know, using their phones? Because if we look at you, we don't see any signs that you are actually aware of us. But what happens in your mind?
Well, it depends. If somebody does something, it's very hard not to be aware of it. Like if all of a sudden you see someone videotaping, it's hard not to just look at them because it's distracting. Or if people are talking or something like that, it is hard not to notice that. But for the most part, I really, especially while I'm singing, I'm so in another place. Like, I know it sounds strange, but like when I'm singing Das Lied von der Erde, I actually see what I'm talking about in my head. I don't see the audience. So it makes a big difference. The audiences all over the world are different. I will say that. Like, for instance, my first recital in the Edinburgh Festival was, I think it's called Queen's Hall. I'm having a brain fart. I think it's called Queen's Hall. But anyway, at the end, they started stomping their feet. And I was just like, I was blown away by that. And I was so touched by how much they loved the recital. Not necessarily me, how much they loved the music, how much they loved the experience of the recital. And because that's how I feel about music. You know, when I go and hear something that I love, like Beethoven's Seventh Symphony is, to me, just one of the greatest things. I love it so much. And I have that experience within me, a deep experience. So I want other people to have that as well. So European audiences tend to behave differently than American. And it's just all different. The people are different. In Asia, you have to sign autographs for an hour, you know, which is lovely. It's lovely that because they love it so much. So it just depends. It is different. And I don't know if I feel different in other places. I sort of just do my thing. This is who I am. And I really, wherever I'm singing, I try to bring my best. And I try to sing as much as well as possible. I try to be as present as possible. So that kind of matters before and after, but not during.
Do you think it will be possible for you if they now will allow certain recitals but without audiences? Would you be able to sing them?
You mean like in a live theater with no audience?
Yeah.
A live theater, a theater with no audience. I have been thinking about that, as some have been canceled recently, about doing a recital on like live internet or something. My friend Matthias Görne has done one, and he does, and you'd think that there was an audience, you know, and that's part of what we do. I mean, even I'm doing this recording. I don't know if you've seen it. This recording on YouTube. I'm doing the Winterreise, and my pianist is not here. My pianist is in Chicago, and my cousin is in California, putting the videos together. None of us are in the same place, and it's all being done by, you know, electronics, obviously. That is not ideal, but it's still making music. There is a different thing. I will give you one example. I did Mahler's Second Symphony with the Vienna Philharmonic and Pierre Boulez, and we recorded it. And we did concerts, and the audience is just extraordinary in Vienna, and they loved it. And people usually love the end of Mahler too. It's so exciting, and everyone just feels so blessed. And then we recorded it, and we recorded it without the audience in the same hall. Mm-hmm. And that was very hard for me. I said to him, can't we record it with the audience? He says, no, I don't like the sounds of the audience. He wanted it, but that for me is very difficult. I find a different energy, a more natural energy when the audience is there. And when the audience isn't there, then you focus on things that you don't focus on when you do live singing. Does that make sense?
You mean you become more demanding to yourself?
Yes, you become more self-critical. You're focusing on your voice. You're focusing on this. When you're singing to people, I don't honestly know. Like when I did there was this big concert I did with the New York Philharmonic of the 10th anniversary of 9/11. And we did Mahler's Second Symphony. And the people in the audience were either survivors of 9/11 or they were family members of people that didn't survive. And they told us that right before we walked on stage. So I was so emotional, and I stood up to sing the Urlicht, and I could not control my emotions. And I was like this, while I was singing, I was so into it, and I just wanted to touch people. I was just like, take my love, and I got done, and I was like, that's the worst singing I've ever done. But I'm okay with that. And then of course it becomes this big, they make a DVD out of it. It becomes this big thing. So I finally had to hear it because I knew everyone was going to hear it. And I was like, that's good singing. Mm-hmm. But that's not my reality of it, because I couldn't control my breath because I was so emotional. I felt like everything was just, not flowing. And I don't know how that happened, but it did. It came out really, really well. So I find the energy of singing for people, I definitely do better musically. I definitely do better.
Actually, you mentioned the recordings. We had a discussion with my friend, the music critic, and he says that paradoxically, the recordings, you are never knowing whether you are capturing the best possible performance. That some of them go unrecorded and only are remembered in the memories. So I was wondering, when you listen to your recordings and you know the whole wealth of your performances, do they represent you? Are you lucky to be represented by your recordings well enough compared to the potential that you were doing on stage at other times?
Well, it's hard to know because as a singer, you cannot hear yourself. Mm. So I record myself every time I sing. Even if I'm in my living room and I'm practicing with no one else around, I record it. And I listen.
So you have the library of your whole life somewhere.
Yeah, I guess so. Scary thought, but yes, that's a very big library. But I will often think, or I'll go into rehearsal and I'll sing, and I just keep doing the things that I think are the correct things to do technically, vocally, but I'll walk off going, wow, I'm in terrible voice today. And then I'll listen and I'll go, that's good singing. So it is hard to tell sometimes as a singer. I think especially with a bigger voice, when you have so many different places your voice could actually go. Mm-hmm. But I think, it's hard for me to answer that with the recordings. There, one thing is with people that do a lot of solo discs, there's a lot of things that they can do electronically to fix things. Mm-hmm. And so the person sounds a lot different live. I do think I sound the same because I don't know. I guess I don't have that done quite as much, or I don't have a solo recording contract. I'm on I'm on the Ring cycle or Mahler 2 or Mahler 3, or, I'm on things like that with symphonies, but I only have one solo disc presently. So there are times I think that people don't take into consideration, like when I did Les Troyens with Sir Colin Davis, which, you know, ended up winning two Grammy Awards. And I mean, a huge success. I had tracheitis, which is the infection in the trachea, and I could almost not phonate. And I was going to the doctor almost every day, and they were getting me through it. It was very scary. And then Colin would say, Sir Colin, excuse me, Sir Colin would say to me, Michelle, do you want to go hear the playback? And I'd go, no. And he said, well, you might hear it, something you want to change. I said, I can't do it any better. And I wasn't being conceited. I literally could barely phonate. So, and they didn't want to fire me. So, or I shouldn't say fire me. They didn't want to get rid of me, but that I did the best I could do. And is it the best singing? No. If I was healthy, it would have been a lot better. But I'm very proud of it because that is the best I could do. And you know what? We won 2 Grammy Awards, so it wasn't that bad. And then I did a Mahler 8 with Pierre in Berlin, and same thing. I got really ill, and I went to him and I said, you replace me, Pierre. I am totally fine with that. And he goes, no. He just wouldn't. I was like, you do hear me. I'm really sick. And he goes, I want you on the recording. And it ended up being, because I was sick, I was like just so careful vocally. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't oversing. I couldn't undersing. I just had to sing correctly. And it's actually quite good. So I remember when it came out and I played it for my voice teacher, she's like, that's the best I've ever heard you. So, you know, it just depends. There are things, people like to record us when we have no say of it and it's on YouTube, and, you know, you can't do anything about it. We don't always sing well. There are stuff out there that is not as good as singing, and that we're human. So all of us, you know.
So you mentioned this quality, the stamina that a singer must have. What are other psychological qualities that you think a musician, or and especially a singer, must develop? You mentioned health. You mentioned, well, I guess maybe psychological flexibility to do different things. But what are others?
Well, actually, since you say psychological, it is important to be emotionally healthy, because quite frankly, if you're not and you go on stage and, you know, you lose it, that isn't so good either. It's a tricky career. I'm not going to lie. It is not for everybody. I think I'm strange. I love it very much. I love Colorado, which is where I grew up and where I live currently. And if you have to be quarantined somewhere, this is the place to be quarantined, because I can walk in open spaces, but and see the mountains. But I miss traveling. I mean, you know, you're in St. Petersburg, and all I can think is, oh, I want to go there so bad.
I'm not traveling either. You know, I'm in the suburb with blocks of flats. I don't see the center, unfortunately. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, it's the same everywhere. But what I'm thinking is just of all these places that I've not seen and I'd like to see. And I like the career. I think, you know, I'll fly to Paris and do one concert. And to me, I'm totally okay with that. I have to figure out how to do it. I have to get there early enough. You know, we can't fly. Mostly singers can't fly overseas and sing that day. I am not one of them that can do that. I know people that can do that, and I am not one of them. And you know, I know singers that smoke. I'm not one of them. I cannot smoke. I am very sensitive to alcohol. So it's all different. I'm sensitive to carbs. You know, if I eat pasta before I sing, I'll fall asleep. So we're all different in figuring out how we need to cope.
So in the way, your voice is almost like a very highly insured, expensive car or a castle, yes, that you have to take good care of, yes, and know all the things, how it works and how to maintain it, yes, at the best level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the vocal cords are so delicate. They're so delicate. 2 little folds of I don't know, stuff. And you could have something too spicy at night and not be able to sing the next day. You could sneeze and not be able to sing just from a sneeze, you know. And it's not that we're delicate, but we have to be cautious. We have to be careful. You know, if I go onto a roller coaster, I can't scream. So I laugh because if I scream, that could end my career. So um, we just have to be cautious of that kind of thing. You know, am I singing tomorrow? Oh no, I'll have a glass of wine. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
that, or um, if you in a fight with your husband and you cry, you're not going to have a voice in the morning.
Well, that means that you have not to fight with anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be ideal. Yes.
Hmm. And is there how to say a continuity between the singers in the history of a vocal, like say of opera? For example, we could place conductors in some kind of lines who is similar to like the the emotional type or the intellectual type. Are there any lines of the heritage of singers that you could put yourself into line with, that that you are continuing a certain type of singing in the history?
I don't know how to answer that because I don't see that in conductors. I could name 5 conductors right now that I don't see any similarity,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that are all having major careers right now. Singing is in an odd place, in my opinion. It has become a very visual art form.
Mm-hmm.
It's become how people look. You know, do they look the part? See, I don't believe in that. I think I want someone that can sing the part. I want the voice for the part. Um, and I would rather imagine the look, you know, have a little imagination with that, than
Mm-hmm.
have someone that looks the part and can't sing it or doesn't sing it correctly. That's my opinion. Um, if I'm going to go to the theater, that's what I want. So I think it is because of the internet, because of Hollywood, because it's become people really like quote unquote famous singers. And a lot of times, famous singers are famous because they have good publicists or
Mm-hmm.
because they looked the right way and somebody big backed them. That doesn't mean necessarily that they are the greatest. Do you know what I mean? So I obviously am very picky in this subject, but I am a musician at heart and I like really good singing. I like good
Mm-hmm.
piano playing. I like good violin playing. I like good everything.
Actually, now you mention it, I actually wanted to ask it, but who makes this judgment? For example, do critics uh, have the right to make the judgment who is good or not?
Do they have
Or
to wait?
like or does everyone make a judgment only for himself, like how do people know if they are
I
not
think it's both. I
as
think
experienced?
sometimes people make their own judgment, and I think that is ideal. I wish all people did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because, you know, when someone says, when I listen to that person, I am so touched, that means something to me.
Mm-hmm.
When someone it likes them because the critics like them, well, I mean, you got to take into consideration, not all critics are, their papers sell if critics are mean. There are people that are paid to write good critics about people. So how can we trust any critics?
Well, but maybe now we can trust all the bloggers, who are sort of
That too is
independent
an opinion.
writers.
And if say somebody doesn't like someone because they got hired for a job that someone else didn't, so then that
Mm-hmm.
person just goes after them. And people, it's sad, but for some reason it's, what is that phrase? Misery likes misery or something, where people like it makes them laugh to read things, mean things, you know. It's, which is really sad, because if you think of all artists, painters, singers, violinists, all artists, we are going out there and giving of ourselves. That is us. Especially singers, it is us that you're hearing. We don't have our instrument is in us, and we are trying to be unique and share who we are. So when people just, you know, bash it, it's soul breaking.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like, I don't know, ruining your child or something like this, yeah, like your
Yeah,
best self, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that I have gone back and forth throughout my career of not reading it because I was too sensitive. Then I did read it, and then I I am a little careful reading it. I have definitely critics that are not fans and will not ever write anything good about me, no matter what. I will even have critics that write backwards compliments about me because they don't like me so much. Like if it's really good, somehow it'll be not a compliment. And that's just the way it is. And so it doesn't do me any good to read it. I don't, that isn't who I should trust. I should trust me. I should trust the people that I really believe in. You know, when they say that was not your good, that was not good singing, or you were not, you weren't present, you weren't there. That means something to me, and that is not okay, as far as I'm concerned. I am always striving to be better, and I want to give the most that I can to people. That is what I want to do. So I don't know. I think good critics will bring people to a show, but I don't really see, I just think it's mean.
So we all have to be critical of the existence of the critics in a way.
Well, yeah, in a way. I don't think, I mean, it's fine, read it, but don't make your decision based on what a critic writes. You get to have your decision.
Are you now missing this opportunity to be this best self that you say everyone is expressing on stage? Can you now do an ersatz version of it at home or not at all?
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of singer friends of mine are like, how are you singing? You know, how are you doing this? Because as I told you, I'm recording this Winterreise, and I've never sung them before, so I'm learning them too. And it's a major project, and I have to do it. For me, I have to make art. I have to sing. And I am very, very thankful for this project. And when it's done, I'll probably do another one if we're still in this situation. So I do miss the stage very much, but I need to make art.
I watched, just before we talked, I watched a talk between four conductors, Alan Gilbert, Daniel Harding, Karina Kanelakis, and Sir Simon Rattle, and they were saying that they are not envisioning the return of the musical world as it was at all.
Yeah.
They are envisioning maybe empty halls for a year. What do you think about it? How do you envision now?
I think that is definitely going to happen. I think that they are going to, when they do start back up, I think halls will be half full at best. I don't think, you know, and partly I think they'll probably make people not sit next to each other. Do sporadic seating. I think the thing I think will be wonderful about it is this experience, if we allow it, it is a great equalizer. We are all going through this, the entire world. And it also, if people allow it, it can also really bring out what's important in life. And I think music is so important in life. And I think people are going to love it all the more, both creating the music, will appreciate it on a different level. You know, that it's about the music. It's not about the fame and the fortune and all. Sorry, I got a phone call.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about the creating the music and living in that music. And I think it will touch people in the audience more too.
But do you think after this moment of equality that we're having now with all the free streams, then with the rarefied seats, it will become more elite than it was before? Like if there are less seats, then it means that the prices should go up probably. And then
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that. I hope that's not what people do. I hope this makes people more human and makes, you know, people that are making millions and millions, it's kind of ridiculous. I think I am hoping that what it does is makes everybody realize that everybody is welcome and everybody gets to have this experience. It is not elitist. It's one of the reasons I'm putting the Winterreise on social media is I want to touch people that don't usually listen to this type of music. And that it is just beautiful music, and you can just just experience the emotion of it and the journey of it, and that's what I'm hoping. I can only say what I'm hoping. I
Yes,
think,
I'm hoping so too, because as an anthropologist of music, I have been attending the rehearsals quite a lot, and I'm
yeah,
also wondering what my position would be now,
yeah.
to be allowed or not. I wanted to ask about your works with modern composers, like John Adams, or this a new opera by Tandun. Could you describe what you feel with the works that you have never ever sung before, and whether you actually how much is the real person is also a channel for you of his music, or do you say to John, like, I don't have to talk to you, I understand everything through your
Oh, no.
score?
It's such an honor. I've never premiered a John Adams piece, but I have sung some of his works with him. It is such an honor, actually, to premiere a piece like Tandun's piece. I also premiered two of Elliott Carter's pieces. And to have the composer there and to say, like for instance with Tendun, let me use that for an example. So he heard me live, he listened to me sing Kundry, which of course has high B's, and then what was the other thing he heard? I can't think of what the other thing was, but it had low G's. And so he said, well, I'm going to use her whole range in one piece, which is a little rare. And so he did, and I was singing high B's in the very beginning of the opera, and at the very end of the opera, I had to sing low G's, and I was able to say to him, it has to be the other way around. It didn't. He never changed it, but I explained to him that for a mezzo that has high C's, it is very difficult then to sing for any voice. If you're going to sing high, 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 it's very difficult to then have voice in the very low. So, but that is how it was. And it was amazing to have that role written for my voice. And with the Elliott Carter, it was not written for my voice. I just premiered two of his works. And then with John Adams, it was just, I believe that Lorraine Hunt Lieberson is the one that actually premiered the work that I did. Which is El Nino, and but it was such a beautiful work, and for the mezzo, very, very beautiful, and just to be able to discuss why this, what do you want here? I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to ask them about the work itself and what they meant by something, and is this what you want? Is this the color you want? Or it makes it really come to life. With Elliott Carter, it was very difficult because I didn't understand. It's not that I didn't understand it musically, it's that it didn't touch me musically. And it was very, very modern work and very difficult. And I don't have perfect pitch. And one of the pieces was I premiered it with Daniel Barenboim, and I was the orchestra was in a different key than me, and I was supposed to come in on an A, and I would always doubt myself. I was always right, but I would always have this moment of, oh, I hope I'm right. No one would have known. No one. But anyway, and Daniel Barenboim would just lean his head over and hum the pitch to me.
Oh, again.
It's back. Hi, baby. I love a musical challenge. It's like what we were talking about before. I like to just become better and better and better. I'm constantly working on my craft, and I like that.
Do you remember, like, now you have a history of performances? Do you sometimes wake up and have these memories? That was the highlight of my life. Do you have these moments when you went somewhere, and if you would write your memoir, you would definitely put them in, like, something cherished?
I have to say, I would say that about most of my career. I'm really, really blessed. I've had an incredible career and experiences on all different levels that have just been so wonderful. I think at the beginning of my career, I thought that was kind of normal. And so I don't think I really took note of it as much, which is sad. Not that I don't remember it, but at the moment I didn't realize things were so huge. So I think that to be able, I think back on it and go, wow, I did that. That's
Well, that's incredible. But
that
what
was
was then
extreme.
the contrary? Were there some negative moments that could have gone wrong, but you sort of fought with the challenge, and now you remember them? Yes, I ticked the box. I was the master of the station.
Absolutely. I think that in life, in career, in anything, uh, we have a choice. We can go down into the dark hole, or we can
Hmm.
try to make the best of it. And I don't think I have always succeeded in that, but I think I always try.
Hmm.
Uh, I I think when we go through really hard times in life, if we can try to just keep working towards the light, and try to think, I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna become a better person because of this.
Hmm.
Then it was a blessing.
We have 4 minutes, and maybe if you could describe to us what is the life in quarantine is now where you are. Are there some interesting effects that people are doing to each other? I don't know. How is life going there?
At 8 p.m. in Colorado, people go outside and howl,
Hmm.
and we sound like coyotes. And because of where I live, it is bringing more coyotes into our neighborhood. um, that I think, strangely, I I do it almost every night. I really like it. I like hearing other people. I'm here alone with Tibbet, and I like to be able to hear other people and feel not alone.
Hmm.
Um, Weirdly, I mean, I've always been pretty um, productive, but I'm even more so, which I find very odd. So I think, because I think if I'm not productive, I'm going to go down this hole and, sit
Hmm.
here and eat macaroni and cheese and watch Netflix all day. I think, in not to do that, I'm trying to be productive and keep going and trying to use the time, work on languages, work on music, um, trying to learn new things, doing a little planting, which is kind of funny. Things that I wouldn't have been able to do if I wasn't here for the next 5 or 6 months.
Do you feel well connected through all Zoom and phone calls and social media, or are they only showing to, to you that it's only an imitation of connection, or do they actually serve
I think
their
social media
purpose?
is definitely an imitation of connection. I don't
Mhm.
think people are generally very honest on social media. Like,
Mhm.
they make things either look much worse than they are, much better than they are. Um,
Much better usually, I think.
Usually
Yeah.
much better. Like,
Yeah.
you can know somebody and they're like in a terrible marriage and they're going on and on about their wonderful, and you're like, you just told me you're in a terrible marriage. You know? But I love Zoom.
Mhm.
This is a new thing and
Mhm.
lovely. My family actually does a Zoom meeting every day.
Mhm.
And even if you can only go on 5 minutes and say hi to everyone, we just do a checkup and make sure everyone's doing okay. I have one sister that lives in California, and the rest of us all live in Colorado, and my parents live here, and we just check on each other. I check on my parents every day. I grocery shop for them if they need something, but
Mhm.
mostly they do delivery. But if they need something, I'm the one that goes and I won't let them out.
Mhm.
um, I don't go to their house. They don't live with me, but I encourage them not to leave their house. And so that's, of course, very different. And in some ways, I think people are becoming more humane, which I think is great.
Mhm.
What I hope ends up happening is that people actually become more loving and more understanding of people, that we don't have to agree, but we can still respect each other. I,
Yes,
I hope that
and
happens more.
to be kind,
Yes.
even if we don't understand what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah? Because before we were closing off too quickly. Yes, we were kind of
Yes.
having our own schedules, routines, and not thinking, oh, maybe he or she is right. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel it too.
Yeah.
Like the stubbornness of the humanity
Yeah.
it is falling away.
It's not gonna hurt you to respect someone else, even if you don't agree.
Yeah. Well, We have 30 minutes, and in them, I want to thank you so much for being with me. It's so good, I'm alone in my flat, and it's so good for me to be connected to people through this media. And I hope to see you either at the Philharmonia concert or in some opera at some point. And thank you so much for being
Thank
with me
you.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.